Hi, I'm Preston Williams, and welcome to another edition of Jazz Talk. Today on our show, we have a very special guest who needs no introduction. This gentleman has been on the scene for over 30 years and has worked with many greats from Wynton Marsalis, Betty Carter, John Hendricks, Anita Baker, and Christian McBride, to name a few. He is a pianist and composer. Please welcome to Jazz Talk, Mr. Cyrus Chestnut. Welcome, sir. Man.
Thank you. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, man. It's so good to have you on. Cyrus, like I said, you've been on the scene, man, for quite a while, and you've played with so many great musicians. A lot of them I've even had on the show. But I'm interested in knowing more about your background, your humble beginnings. I understand that you are from Baltimore.
Yes, I am from Baltimore.
Yeah.
I started the journey with the piano. Started at the age of 3.
Yeah.
My father plays piano, and I remember I was told that in order to keep me quiet, he would place me in the bassinet next to the piano and start playing.
Okay.
And I would just get whatever I was doing. I would just get quiet, and then just soon fall asleep. And he said I think it was around 3, somewhere between 2.5 and 3. That's what he said.
Yeah.
I got strength to climb up on the piano bench, and I started trying to do what he did.
Wow.
So he started showing me some things, and by the age of 5, I had my first teacher, a great pianist. Her name was Ada Jenkins.
Ada Jenkins.
Yeah, Ada Jenkins, a piano legend here in Baltimore.
Okay.
And I studied with her, and then by the time, then from about when I got to 7, I started studying with Linda Leslie, who was instrumental in getting me to the Peabody Preparatory at the age of 9.
Yeah.
So I was at the preparatory at the age of 9, studying Beethoven, I guess the 3 Bs, Beethoven, Brahms, and Bach.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
But also 9 was very special for me because in Baltimore, they had F&W Woolworths, which was the predecessor to the dollar store.
Yeah.
I went to Woolworths, and I was thumbing through the record. They used to have records there, and I saw this record, and it had this picture of this gentleman, and it was just something about the album cover that I was drawn to.
Yeah.
And now I had a hard time pronouncing the name. It was Thelonious Monk.
Yeah.
So I asked my mom to help me buy the record. And at the age of 9, I started listening to Monk. And so from there, it just kept going. It kept going. Robert Ford had a radio show, I believe, at the Community College of Baltimore called Jazz. I want to say Jazz Straight Ahead. I stand corrected, Brother Ford. But I would listen every day at 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I would hear like fond memories of Dexter Gordon playing fried bananas at the Montreux Jazz Summit. And I just loved his music. Jimmy Smith, and it just kept going.
Yeah.
And so as I got older, Beethoven got replaced with Bud Powell.
The most influential pianist in jazz history.
Yes. And so I started, I just was drawn to the music. And one thing I was, I liked the freedom that jazz allowed. Because there was times I would sit at the piano and just play.
Yeah.
And so I was listening to this music and hearing these great musicians just create. And I was just drawn into it.
Yeah.
I was drawn into it. And so, some 54 years later, I'm still trying to figure out how to
I hear you, man.
how to deal with this, how to deal with this here.
Now,
So
Cyrus, I wanted to ask you also your church background, Mount Calvary Baptist Church, man,
yeah,
coming up,
Mount Calvary,
that had a
Mount,
tremendous
yeah,
influence on you, man.
oh
Talk about
yeah,
that.
oh yeah, the Mount Calvary Star Baptist Church in Baltimore. It was basically even before going to Peabody, that was my early music training.
Yeah.
Uh, I learned about improvisation playing in church.
Hmm.
I learned about accompaniment playing in church. I learned about the art of groove in by playing in church. And one might ask, how do you learn how to groove in church? Well, in those days, well, growing up, there was no rhythm section per se, no
Hmm.
bass drums. It was just the piano and organ, hand claps and feet.
Mm.
And
Okay.
it was a special thing. Even though I even remember, I think about it now. It was a special thing sometimes when the congregation would just sing and they would just clap and the feet would go boom, boom. Is I can appreciate it now,
Yeah.
but when they all got under, when everybody came together, got into I like to say the one accord moment, it became magical. It
Wow.
became magical, and then also it's yeah, and there was times the pastor would just say play something, and so I didn't have any time to open up the hymn book or anything, so I just had to start playing something.
Mm.
I just had to start playing. So by the time I got to Peabody, there was certain things that I already had together.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Now, I was going to ask you, Cyrus, I guess, from the time that you were 9 and studying at Peabody, going into your early teens, were you playing in local bands in the Baltimore area?
Oh no, I didn't. It wasn't now the journey. As I went through the preparatory program,
Hmm.
um, see when it was about eighth grade, Woodburn Junior High School had become Chinquapin Middle,
Uh-huh.
and so then there was Northern. There was Northern High School, and so at that point, the School of the Arts um, was just starting to become open, and so I never got it. I wasn't a part of the School of the Arts crew.
Hmm.
Family, parents, we moved out to Harford County, and that was very, very important because there at the when I finished the North Harford Middle School and I went to the North Harford High School, the
Hmm.
band director Michael Pastelak, he came and he sought me out and says, "I want you to play in the band." And I told him, I didn't really play an instrument. I played flute, but he says, "No, I don't want you to play no flute." So I started playing baritone horn. He says, "But I really want you to play in the jazz band." I was like, "Okay." There's nothing, and it was through the association with Mr. Pastelak.
Hmm.
He really encouraged me to go more into into the jazz genre, ultimately helping me to get to Berkeley College of Music in Boston,
Yeah.
where once I finished high school. So around when the high school days became, I spent more time. Forgive me, Peabody. I spent more time in the practice rooms improvising than,
Hmm.
in fact, there was times I would get in trouble. I was sitting there trying to play the blues, and one of the teachers would knock on the door and says, "What are you doing? That's not your piano lesson." It's like, oh. So when she went away, I just went back again and started. Yeah.
Oh man, that's great. Now, Cyrus, moving on to I guess early '80s, '81 or something like that is when you went to the Berkeley College of Music. Man, what
Yeah.
was that? What was that experience like, man? Going to a school like that during that time? Because I think you had a lot of other friends and fellow musicians who've gone on to become great musicians themselves. But what was it like going there during that time period?
Well, I was like a big fish in a little pond coming
Yeah,
out of the Baltimore area.
yeah.
And so, here I am in this whole brand new city. Never been really anywhere outside of where the family would go. So
Mhm.
I was really on my own for the first time. And so to be there, and I remember one of the early sessions, walking to one of the early sessions and seeing, Greg Osby playing along with Curtis Williams and all the cats. And it was
Yeah,
quite intimidating because they were playing some serious music.
yeah, yeah.
So, and so I would go to the sessions for a good while and just sit on the wall and listen. And then after a while, once the session started going, cats started leaving, then they, would let me, kind of come in and start playing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was there with Delphio Marcellus. I mean, I was there just as Donald Harrison was leaving. A lot
Yeah.
of the cats the semester before, like Marvin Smitty Smith, and they all left,
Yeah.
going into New York to do their thing. And so and at Berkeley, there was one gentleman, this trombonist. His name was Tim Williams, and
Mm.
we knew him as Bone. Bone was an
Bone.
intimidating, yeah, Bone was an intimidating figure. Stood tall and spoke, really loud, and said, "Chestnut, come here." I was like, "Yes, what's going on?" He says, "You shedding?" I said, "Yes, sir. Who you shedding on?" You know. And a lot of things. So even there, even in the community at the college, there was, there were people around me to encourage me, to say, "Hey, come on, let's get this here together."
Yeah.
And by the time I got to college, it was like, yeah, it's on. I knew I wanted to play. I wanted to play jazz without a doubt.
Brother, I got a story, man. I wanted to bring up and ask you about that master class with Betty Carter, the one that
Oh,
you told, the late
yeah,
Mark Ledford. Betty didn't have a pianist, and what Mark said, get Cyrus Chestnut,
yeah.
and you go up there and play, and I guess you were terrified, man. Tell us about that.
Well, um, you know, be careful. This saying, "Be careful of what you ask for,
Right,
because you just might get it."
right.
Man, I talked big junk to everybody the week before that she was coming, talking about how I was going to sit in with Betty Carter and show her what I could do.
Right.
And so I learned a lot of things that day. The performance center was filled with musicians. Everybody from the school was just there. And when he said that, it was just like, oh my. So I went up, I was shaking in my boots, literally, because I was afraid that she was going to call something I did not know. And then I'd be a whole big embarrassment to the whole school body.
Mm-hmm.
But she called Body and Soul. And I said, okay, I'm cool with that. I could do that. So I walked over to the piano. And as I walked over to the piano, she changed the key on me.
G, right?
Yeah, that G cut through me like a knife, boy. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Larry Monroe, who was there, he said, "Hey man, you sure you got this? We don't have no real books here." And so, at that point, all my knowledge of playing, of transposition and piano, they went down the street and gets a piece, got a slice of pizza and a Coke. And I was left there to figure this out. I said, "Oh no." I played the song in key. I was nervous. I
Yeah.
was nervous. I learned a great lesson about nerves that day.
Mm-hmm.
Which I tell to this day. It's like, you have to allow nervous energy to be under your feet, so to speak, to help you soar,
Right.
not have it overtake you like quicksand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I played it, and I guess the musical angels came down and confounded the ears of all of these musicians. They had to know, I played the song in the wrong key.
Yeah.
And I got to a point of where, I had to fight through it. I had to fight through it. She sang, and she sang a few notes, and I played it. I mean, it was so crazy. She actually sang the changes to me, but I was just too nervous and couldn't hear it. So I just tried to fight. I fought through it to the best of my ability.
Yeah.
And she was in the key of G, and I was in the key of C. So I
But you know
came
what,
back.
Joe? Cyrus, I'm thinking maybe she heard something. Maybe she could see that you were struggling and trying to find, what was happening? I mean, I think afterwards she told you, you did a good job, and I'm sure you were shocked, but
Yeah, that's the thing
maybe
that
she
messed
heard,
me up.
maybe she heard something, man.
That was the thing that got me. She said, "You were wonderful." I thought she was going to curse me out.
Yeah, because she's got a reputation, like you said, she would eat
Oh,
piano players. I mean,
yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You were wonderful. Gave me a big hug.
wow.
And so I was very confused. But then even more, when I was walking through the campus, I was headed back to my dormitory room. Oh, I was the man. And everybody was, yeah, man, that was great. That was great. You're killing. It's like, well, where were y'all in? Anyway, so I got a couple blocks away from the school, and then all of the musical ability, that the portion that I had, finished the pizza and and the Coke. So they came back and visited me and let me know that A-7 was first chord. So, oh, man, so turned around, I went back to the school, and I played the song in the right key. I said, "Oh, Lord, have mercy." So I vowed myself that I would if I ever got the chance, I would make it up to her. And lo and behold, I did. And I was grateful because that was my finishing school, my graduate school, so to speak. You learn a lot of academia, you learn a lot about terminology and things in
Hmm.
school, and you learn things in a technical way. But then when you get out on the street, you find out what works and what doesn't work.
Hmm.
And so, being there playing, night after night with Betty, I learned a lot of things. Just the art of just really making the notes live.
Yeah.
And so I will always be grateful to the great Betty Carter, because first and foremost, she gave me a chance and to be considered a part of that history and that legacy that she left. Because, uh,
Yeah.
you know, uh, a lot of people talk about Art Blakey, having a school and to have
Hmm.
a jazz school, but then Betty Carter too also had a school.
Yeah.
You- It's like even if you want to come when you were coming through, you either went through the school of Art Blakey or you went through the school of Betty Carter. If you had one of those stamps on you, then you were all right.
And a lot of people came through her. I mean, your friend Lewis Nash, the drummer, a lot of people
Mhm.
came through with Betty.
A lot, a lot.
And I was going to ask you, and like I said, that was probably a very pivotal, point in your musical career, playing with someone great like that. You
Yes.
also played with the. But before I even move on to that, I wanted to ask you, Cyrus, what is the difference, in your opinion, playing sort of in a group, a quartet or a quintet, as opposed to playing comping behind a singer like Betty Carter? What would you say the difference is, or playing behind the singer as opposed to just being in just a band, regular band itself?
Well, theoretically, there shouldn't be any differences,
Hmm.
but with the vocalists, there's the theater
Mm,
and there's the story. Sometimes in a quartet, it's just about playing the notes and playing the changes.
yeah.
But with the vocalists, in my opinion, it's about the theater. It's about the story.
Mm,
And so there's an additional passion that you develop. A good accompanist, in my opinion, again, listens. And so you have to be very flexible. You learn to be very flexible.
hmm.
And you try just to provide the correct support to allow the vocalists to soar.
Yeah.
Now, a good instrumentalist too will also kind of do the same thing, play with passion. You know, you know. I guess if I would say it, I guess the sensitivity. There's a different sensitivity. There's a
Hmm.
different sensitivity. There shouldn't be. It shouldn't be, but I think that there is.
Yeah. Yeah. You also played with the late great John Hendricks, man. What was it like working with him?
That was so much fun. That was so much fun. I got to. I was working with working with Bird Presley. And Bird Presley worked with the Platters, and he
Mm,
was doing his own thing, and going around traveling with Bird. And at one point, I just felt the burning that I wanted to get to New York. And so lo and behold, Mark Ledford again.
There's Mark Ledford. Well,
Mark bless his soul. He called me one day and says, "Hey man, John Hendricks is having auditions. You need to come on up and make an audition." And it just so happened that I had time off to go do the audition.
mm,
So I had nothing to lose. I'm going up and do the audition. I went up, played with John, and the interesting thing was when I went in the room, there was Larry Gales, bassist a la Thelonious Monk, and the great drummer Michael Carvin. That was the
mm.
audition. And so it played, and so then I left. And a day later, I got a call saying, "Hey man, you got a passport?" I said, "Yes." He says, "We leave in 5 days." It's like, okay. And there it is. Working with John, I learned so much about um, it was further education about uh, just the process of playing, the process of accompanying.
Mm-hmm.
John was such a prolific scatter. Oh gosh,
One of the best, man.
oh man, and when he did his Oscar Pettiford thing, playing the bass,
Yeah,
cat in the bass, it was like it's amazing.
yeah.
You know, it was John Hendricks and Company, and that was fun working there. But then when he cut the company loose, and it was just the trio with him, oh, that's when stuff really took off.
Yeah, man. He was great. Like I said, Lambert, Hendricks, and Ross, and even the late Al Jarreau talked about. He
Yeah.
said, I thought
Mhm.
John Hendricks was the greatest jazz singer of all time.
Yes.
He loved him.
Mhm.
Also wanted to ask you. You also hooked up with Wynton Marsalis, man. How'd you and Wynton get together?
Well, there was an earlier. There was a certain period of time I worked with Terrence Blanchard and Donald Harrison.
Yeah.
All right. And so I guess I was one of the cats on the scene folks knew about. And so um, I got a call just out of the blue and say, "Hey man, this is Skane, bro. I want you to come out here and do some gigs." It's like, okay, all right. And so we played at the Joyce Theater Town Hall, and that was a significant, once again, another significant experience in my life
Mm-hmm.
because I was supposed to start out the second half playing a couple pieces with Wynton.
Mm.
But it just so happened that George Wein decided that he didn't want to play the first half, and so he asked me to play. So
Mm.
here I am on the bandstand with Al Gray, Brett Williams, Buddy Tate, all of the Basie alumni. You know, I was Eddie Jones, Jackie Williams. Oh my gosh. I was like a kid in the candy store. It got so hot. I was just bouncing around, just enjoying what I was hearing to the
Yeah.
fact that Eddie Jones had to holler, "Hey, young blood, come on, get some." It's like, oh yeah, I had to be a part of it. So
That's
it
fantastic,
was
man.
great.
Wow.
So yeah, and I did a Northwest tour with him, and every once in time and time through the years, I've done things. I believe the first inaugural tour of the Lincoln Center Jazz Orchestra. I
Mm-hmm.
was there, and so it come. I do things periodically here and there. There was a record that also I forget the name of the record. It's a part of, and so it developed like a friendship through the years. You
Mm.
see each other, Winton is great, always busy, but when he sees me, it's like, "Yeah, man, how you doing?" We always talk.
Mm.
Um, we also when we did some things with Kathleen Battle,
I
we
was
was
going to ask you about her, man. Wow. How'd you hook up with Kathleen Battle? Wow.
well, that came through a great mentor to this day, and his name is Robert Satan. He's an amazing mind.
Mm.
He was one to kind of really started helping me along to kind of fuse everything. He always used to say Thomas Whitfield meets Herbie Hancock. So he wanted me. He kind of encouraged me, and ultimately, Miss Battle too
Mm.
encouraged me to just bring everything to the table, not separately, but just bring it all to the table and have it there to use. So Bob Saden did this project with Laird Jackson, the vocalist, and he was a part of it. And we got to talking. He says, "Hey man, I want you to do some. You got this great gospel feel. I want you to come in the studio and do something with Kathleen Battle." I was like, "Well, sure, sure." And so got into the studio and we started doing it, and it just kicked off.
Yeah.
It just clicked between Miss Battle and I, like.
Wow.
And so, and once again, oh my goodness,
What a voice, man. What
yeah,
a voice.
what a voice, but what a mind, what a
Hmm.
mind, you know. She would challenge me to do things, and and so I wasn't the type of person saying, "Well, no, I can't do that." I try to figure out a way, to make it happen, And so that's where the record "So Many Stars" came from. And
Hmm.
and after so many stars, we started doing some support of the record, but then it also graduated into me doing concerts of her doing spirituals, and like
Yeah.
you would do like spirituals in Duke Ellington.
Yeah.
And so that was that was very meaningful. I'm very grateful. I'm
You
very
know,
grateful.
you
Uh,
made me think about something, working with people like Kathleen Battle and Betty Carter, people who push you and make you
mm,
reach. And it just made me think of Miles Davis. Herbie Hancock used to say Miles would tell them, play what you don't know. Because I don't want you to practice stuff and just come up on the bandstand and play what you've been practicing, play what you don't know, you know.
right,
And
right.
Dave Holland told me Miles would, they would have a set list of songs they're going to play, and at the last minute, Miles would keep them on their toes and then change the whole set list without, so they would have to reach and play what they don't know, as he said. Now,
Mhm.
something else that I also loved. I was doing some research on you. You also played with Dizzy Gillespie too, man. What was that like?
Well,
Wow.
oh, I was in Japan, in
Wow.
Macau, and I got a chance to sit in. I actually sat in with Dizzy, and it was just an amazing experience just to be there,
Yeah.
like, and experience that in many ways. When I had a chance to also work with Aretha Franklin,
And then
and
Anita Baker, right?
yeah, it's one thing to hear the people, on the other side of the bandstand, but when you're right there on the bandstand, it's magical. Like, oh wow, you know. And so and once again, that was kind of like a relationship. I'd see Dizzy. He says, "Hey," he would call me Deacon. "Hey, Deacon, how you doing?" I'm like, I said, "All right," you know.
That's
And
incredible.
yes,
You play with some giants, man. I mean, like, wow. And you also work with bassist Ron Carter, who's, I guess, probably the most recorded bassist in history, a giant. What was it like working with him, man?
oh man, um, amazing. That's the best word I could just say. Amazing. We first started. I was on the Kansas City. Um,
I was going to ask you about that. Your film debut, I think, what, 95, 96 with Jennifer Jason Leigh. Man, what was that experience like? I said, Cyrus, my man, is in a movie.
well, it's given me a lot of respect for cinematography.
Yeah.
Robert Altman did him. It's just some of the things that he did.
Yes, he did.
Like, he took a simple room. He took a basic room and created daylight, created
Hmm.
dusk, and all these things. Is like, wow. Um, and I had the best seat in the house. I like to say,
Yeah, yeah.
sitting right next to Ron Carter, and see, and in between all of the music that we were playing for the music for the movie, we it was like Ron Carter's greatest hits, and I was like, wow, that's great, you know. And so, and I remember, that's the great Ron Carter. I have mad respect. It's like, and so and I'm walking one day, I think going to get something. He says, "Hey man, come here." I was like, "Oh no, what did I do?" And sat down, had the most beautiful conversation.
Yeah.
Mm. And then to have the opportunity to record with Ron Carter, Ron Carter and Billy Higgins.
That's
Yeah,
incredible, man. Giants,
yeah,
Giants. Wow.
you know, and I'm count myself very blessed, and I do not take it for granted that you know, I had the opportunity to that you know these gentlemen felt it not robbery to impart their knowledge and wisdom to me and share it with me.
Hmm.
So and then as that happens, then you know, I feel charged to do the same thing.
Yeah, yeah,
Do the
yeah,
same thing.
yeah. Cyrus, there are a lot of heavyweights in that movie with you. I believe the late Jerry Allen was in that film too, wasn't she?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Jerry Allen, Kevin Mahogany.
man, greatness. Yeah, just so many wonderful musicians. You also work with one of the, I guess, hottest bassists on the scene today, Christian McBride. You've worked with him too.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we've done things, you know, on and off. He was a part of his record "Getting to It"
Getting
on the
to it. I
third.
got that one. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a great recording.
yeah. It was funny. I have to go back to the Kathleen Battle So Many Stars session because it's going to tie into "Getting to It." Little quip here. We were at Clinton Studios in New York, 46th and 10th. Um, so I walked into the studio and they had the Balducci's. They had it was like completely catered in the outer lobby. I'd never seen anything like that before in my life.
Hmm.
Anything that you could desire, sandwiches, fruits, all drinks. It was I was like, wow.
Hmm.
Then you went into the lobby, into the lounge right outside the studio, and there was yet another spread. Like, wow. And they had this 9-foot Hamburg Steinway that was incredible. Oh, wow. So after a few days, we finished the session. Then that was in Studio B. So we went up to Studio A to do Getting to It.
Hmm.
So I walk upstairs because McBride was on that record on So Many Stars too. So we walk up, you know, and I walk up and I open up the refrigerator and the crickets were singing. There was some old carton of orange juice in there. And I looked at McBride and he said, "No, bro, this ain't Kathleen Battle, man."
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
Yes. I
Yeah.
remember once again this is working with Terrence Blanchard and
Yeah.
Donald Harrison, who were in Philadelphia at the I believe it's called the Painted Bride. And I know McBride don't like me to say this here, but anyhow, I remember him as when I was 16, you know, I always tease him about his new edition suit, you know. Big old man.
New edition suit.
Yeah, and, you know, but he was playing his behind off then.
Yeah.
And you know, and so I mean, not only the music, you know, but also being active in in really sharing the jazz tradition to a younger generation.
Yeah.
You know, being a spokesperson for the jazz idiom, you know, that's you know that's really great, and I'm
Yes.
I'm so happy in everything, and I celebrate everything that he's done.
Yeah. Yeah. Christians everywhere. You also play with two of my favorite musicians, and I've had both of them on the show, Buster Williams and Lenny White.
Oh yeah.
What was it like working with them, man?
Well, Buster, I got to Buster. That's once again, you know. Oh wow, smile comes to my face when you say Buster. You know.
Yeah.
Now, going back years before, just recently being able to tour with Buster and Lenny,
Hmm.
I was asked to play at Gracie Mansion in New York for the kickoff to JVC Jazz Festival.
Okay.
So I went there, and I saw Buster and I saw Ben Riley.
Mm.
So here I am, young little tyke, playing with Buster Williams and Ben Riley. And I struggled my way through it. And I walked back, and after a while, I was like, wow, you know.
Yeah, yeah, I know, man.
And Buster tells the story, and I have to laugh. He says, "Yeah, man, I remember you. Remember that? You were sad. Oh God." And he was right. He was right. He was
Yeah.
sad. But look at you. You come on through, man. I'm proud of you. To be able to, you know, for the gentleman who have walked where you still have yet to walk.
Mm-hmm.
To extend their hands out and to embrace you and help you and encourage you, because not all of them would do it.
Mm-hmm.
Not all of them would do it. And so that's very special. And then to be able to record and to travel, it was just amazing. I played at Birdland when it was doing this one special project. It
Mm-hmm.
was Charles Collini, and there was Buster Williams and Lenny White, and we started playing, and it just kicked off.
Mm.
And Lenny said to Buster, he was like, "Yeah, man, this is something we need to do this here." And so, two records came out of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, um, Natural Essence, which is on High Note,
Right.
and then there's a Sweet Sweet Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And so we would play. Oh man, it was, and that was another lesson. Another lesson in just being in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Being
Mm-hmm.
in being in the moment. You don't abandon everything that you don't abandon everything that you learned and everything that you worked on. But it's like being in a box, so to speak, and you develop your box. But
Mm-hmm.
then with them, they force open one panel of the box to force new wind in, you know. And so then once you're there in that moment, you have to say, "Oh, okay," and you just have to really go and dig in and just experience it.
Yeah, yeah, yes,
So
sir, brother. You
yeah,
also, Cyrus, you also did a Christmas album too,
yeah.
a number of years ago. And didn't you work with Vanessa Williams and a few other people on that recording,
Oh
right?
yeah, Brian McKnight, Vanessa
Yeah.
Williams. I think the Manhattan Transfer was a part of that. The Boys Choir of Harlem. It was a very big record, and a lot of people talk about that record. It was like during the 50th anniversary of Charles Schultz and the Charlie Brown, the
It's
Charlie
a
Brown,
Christmas soundtrack or something like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, of Charlie Brown Christmas. And so, the idea, once again, I was not going to try to recreate it, because that was not me. That was
Right.
not. I didn't learn. I wasn't trained to do that.
Mm.
Even going back to, and I'm even going to go back to my days at the Peabody Preparatory studying musicianship. We would study Gregorian chants and our periods of the Baroque and different things, and we would have to. Our assignments was to create our own Gregorian chants.
Mm.
So even at that point, I was creating at an early age. So all I knew to create was just trying to spontaneously create.
Yeah.
Um, just go back to the church. Pastor say just play something, so I had to create. I got to Peabody. You have to create your own Gregorian chant. And so it was just all completely set up to bring me to this point. So when I got to so when doing this record, doing a Charlie Brown record, it had to be something. It had to come from a different. It had to come from a different angle. You
Mm.
know, Pat Martino was a part of that record too.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of great musicians.
Yeah.
Like
Really good stuff.
Stephon Harris. Yeah,
Oh,
it's come back to me. Yes.
yeah, yeah, that was good stuff, man. I wanted to ask you, throughout your illustrious career, like I said, you've worked with so many greats. Who are your biggest influences on the piano, you would say? And I'm sure there's a lot of cats, you like, but who would you say maybe three of your biggest influences are, Cyrus, on piano?
Oh man, Ray Bryant.
Yeah, okay.
Ray Bryant. I guess it depends. I said Ray Bryant. there's a certain period of Oscar.
Yeah.
It's hard just to pin down three because that if I would just mention three, that really wouldn't encompass, you know. As I said, Ray Bryant's the epitome of the fusion of jazz and gospel for me.
Mm-hmm.
Oscar, well, of course, everybody, you know, any pianist, you're gonna deal with Oscar.
Right.
You know, I could say Monk. Monk was my very first introduction to jazz.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, I still have to mention Bill Evans. I have to mention her. I have to mention um I mentioned Herbie Hancock. It goes on, and it's not only pianists either. So there's other people too. So
You know,
yeah, I did
speaking
my
of pianists, I was reading something with Alfred Lyon of Blue Note Records, and he talked about three pianists, Cyrus, that just knocked him out. The piano playing as well as the compositions. One was, of course, Monk. One was Herbie Nichols, who you very rarely hear anything about, and the other one was the great Andrew Hill.
yeah.
Another great pianist you don't hear too much about, but personal favorite of mine has always been McCoy Tyner. You know, Freddie Hubbard spoke of him. He says playing with McCoy Tyner is like playing with three piano players. But
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
I had a chance to really hang out with McCoy. Um, I just always think about these stories, man. I was in Germany and I
mhm.
first time meeting McCoy, and I was in the hall, and they were doing sound check, and there was all of this commotion going on, and McCoy was sitting at the piano with the top down, and I'm in the middle of the hall, and he's playing, and I'm hearing the piano just like I'm sitting right next to it. I was blown away. And when he played that night, he played so strong that actually I heard the piano better naturally than through the PA system.
Mm.
And I had to, and I was working with, once again, working with the Terrence and Donald. He had to follow, and I told Donald, man, I'm not going out there. What do I need to do? There ain't nothing I could do.
Yeah,
And so Donald said, McCoy does McCoy, and you have to do you.
that's
So
right.
I went out and tried to figure it. I went and figured it out. And then once we got finished, backstage, I saw McCoy. I went to shake his hand. And as I shook his hand, he says, "Hey, young blood, you sound good. That piano was sad, wasn't it?" I was like, "What?" He played all that piano and declared that it was sad. So I asked him because I was going through a period of time of struggling how to adjust to different pianos. That's why I asked him was, "Is there anything that you practice? How do you develop? How are you able to play from night to night different piano and get your sound?" And he just said this. He says, "Oh, but young blood, you just keep on keeping on. In time, you'll get the strength in your hands to get the sound, get your sound."
Mm. Wow.
So, so there you go. And you not to say that there are challenging pianos to play. There are, but you still just have to work it out and to figure it out.
Yeah. Are you down with the avant-garde? You like players like Cecil Taylor?
Yeah, oh man, I used to see Cecil play in Bradley's. He used to hang out and he used to talk. Yeah, you know. You know, as far as I'm concerned, there's only two types of music, good and bad,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion. So, you know, I'm going to always be open to listen, you
Yeah.
know, and try to understand the story. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's not always, it's not, this music is not always dressed, and jazz specifically isn't dressed up in a pork pie hat and a ooh on a daddy o and a ooh mop shabam with a three-piece suit.
Yes, sir. Yes,
You know,
sir.
so I mean, everybody has a story, and
Mm-hmm.
it's up to you, you know, to consider the story.
Mm-hmm.
Just consider
Right.
the story. And so I had great conversations with Cecil Taylor in Bradley's. Bradley's was like another little learning spot for me. You
Yeah.
know, be there to be around so many great musicians. You know, because that was the thing. Um, in specifically the last set started at 2 a.m., but a lot of times it didn't start to 2:30 or 3. And all the musicians, where whoever was playing in the clubs, they would always come over to Bradley's to see what's going on and hang out. So, man, oh, the conversations with Cecil Taylor. And then I tell you, sitting at the piano playing at Bradley's, having Harold Mayburn on your right side
Wow.
staring you down, and having George Coleman at the foot of the piano staring you down.
Mm.
You had to come out with it. It was also there at Bradley's. I got a chance to play with Elvin Jones.
Oh man, you played with Elvin? Oh
Yeah,
wow. That's
yeah,
incredible. That's
yeah,
incredible. Wow.
yeah.
Polyrhythmic master, man. It's so
Oh yeah,
funny. I've had so many people on the show and Elvin's name constantly come up, man, whether it's drummers or horn players.
mhm,
And something interesting. I had drummer Joe Chambers on, and we were talking about that group with
oh,
Coltrane. And it was interesting what Joe Chambers said, Cyrus. He said everybody thought that Elvin Jones was driving that band. He said it wasn't Elvin Jones. He said McCoy Tyner was the one that was pushing that band. I says, really? I says, I've never heard that before. You know?
yeah. I mean, well, yeah. McCoy had such a special drive and a special energy.
Yeah.
He had a special energy. It's just nothing but power,
Yeah.
just power and energy. And so I guess you could say McCoy, but also too, they all contributed
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
my position. You know, one is not without the other,
Mhm.
if you ask me.
I agree. I
You know,
agree. Yeah. Cyrus, I wanted to ask you, since COVID hit earlier this year, of course, a lot of musicians are not touring. They're not able to go out, but you seem like you've still been getting around, man. I see you with your mask on. I caught you when you were at Keystone Corner not long ago. I think you did an interview with Brian Pace of the Pace Report, but you seem to still be out there gigging and doing your thing, man. Has it affected you in any way as far as, I mean, of course, not everyone is touring. You're still doing your music, but how have you been doing since this COVID period, man?
well, thank God I'm just hanging in there.
Yeah.
Uh, Being able to make it is not easy because, like all of us, all of the venues that have been shut down. And so, and of course, and with the shutdown, it's just all of that revenue is gone. And then even now trying to do things at different establishments, it's not it's not at the same same fees.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like it's kind of like a partnership. Got to try to help. Musicians got to help the establishments, and the establishments got to help the musicians. To figure
Mhm.
our way through this.
Yeah.
As is, gratefully, I'm maintaining. I'm maintaining.
Yes,
You
sir.
I'm not on the street. I'm not
Praise
on the
God.
street. And so I praise God for that.
Amen,
So
brother.
all I can do is just keep moving. Actually, it's kind of weird. It seems like with streaming, you're able to reach a little larger audience, hopefully, than just the people who will come like into a club. And so it's hanging in there, man. It's really
Yeah.
hanging in, you know.
Yeah.
Um, I could sit here and talk about, oh, woe is me, but I'm declaring that all is well. In spite of everything that's going on, all is well. And I mean, this is, and storms don't come to stay, they come to pass.
That's what
And
I'm
so I'm
talking about.
grateful that at a point that, I'm just passing through this storm.
Yeah.
Passing through this storm. In the meantime, the music doesn't stop. The music doesn't stop. Still have to go out there, try to be a blessing to someone. That's what you got to do. And so that's all I know. That's all I know. That's
Cyrus,
all
are
I.
you doing anything online? I mean, of course, you just mentioned musicians are streaming some of their shows. Are you teaching? Because I've had some musicians on who have courses where they're teaching online just to supplement their income and to keep working. Are you doing anything like that, teaching online?
Well, gratefully, I've been a part of the Howard University music department.
Fantastic. So you're an educator too. Fantastic.
And yeah, so the university is virtual right now, but
Mhm.
gratefully that's the way how you kind of stay afloat.
Yeah, yeah, that's wonderful, man. Well, listen, brother, I want to thank you so much for being on Jazz Talk today. I love you, your work, making the beautiful music that you've made over the years, man, and just you just have a good vibe. I love chatting with you, man. Hang on, I'm about to close out the show. Well,
Oh,
you've heard it from the great Cyrus Chestnut. And as the saying goes, if the music grooves and makes you move, it must be jazz. I'm Preston Williams with Jazz Talk signing off. Peace.